Imagine the audacity. A new police chief stepping into his own precinct, disguised as just another face in the crowd. What he endured that morning would shock anyone to their core. But what happened next? Oh, it sent tremors through the entire department. From a quiet act of disrespect to a powerful public reckoning, this true story will make you think twice about leadership, respect, and change. Hit follow, sit back, and listen closely. And if this story hits you, drop a comment and share with someone who needs to hear it. The Georgia sun beat down relentlessly that sweltering September morning as Michael Anderson parked his unassuming dented sedan in the neglected lot of the Hillside Police Department. Who would ever guess this man, in his faded shirt, worn-out jeans, and beat-up sneakers, was about to become their leader? He wasn't there for pomp and circumstance, he was there for truth. Raw, unvarnished, and utterly exposed. For nearly 2 decades, Michael had been a relentless federal investigator, unearthing the darkest corners of law enforcement, specializing in racial injustice and abuse. But today, he wasn't observing from a distance. Today, he was their chief of police, and he craved genuine insight, not a rehearsed performance. He lingered at the back entrance, a ghost unnoticed amongst the casual morning chatter of officers, exactly as he intended. His arrival had been a quiet secret. Even Captain David Miller, the interim head, only knew he was coming sometime this week. Stepping inside, the muggy air gave way to a stale, fluorescent-lit gloom. The pervasive smell of stale coffee clung to every surface. He moved slowly, absorbing every detail: the chaotic bulletin board, the engraved names on plaques, some freshly scratched. Two officers laughed at a phone, another lost in paperwork. No one stopped him. He was truly invisible. Was this surveillance? No, it was far more personal. Michael knew how corruption festered, not in grand scandals, but in the casual disregard, the knowing glances, the chilling silence in the face of cruelty. Hillside, oh Hillside, its reputation for internal cover-ups and thwarted reforms echoed through federal corridors. Real change demanded real truth, and truth rarely revealed itself when eyes felt watched. His heart hammered with a powerful resolve as he passed officers laughing over donuts. Still no questions, no suspicion. He knew this pattern: the false fronts maintained until true accountability arrived. And accountability, today, wore a baseball cap and the weight of 20 years of federal grit. He paused, just outside the main hallway, knowing that in mere hours he'd return in a crisp suit, greeted by applause. But for now, he was just a nobody, eyes wide open, mind recording every smirk, every shrug, every careless word. "Hey, you lost or something?" The voice, sharp as a knife, sliced through the morning's hum. Michael turned. Officer Brian Davies, tall, broad, with a harsh buzz cut and a smirk of unchecked arrogance, strode directly toward him. His badge gleamed. Davies. Behind him, two other officers leaned, sipping coffee, their faces already alight with the promise of entertainment. Michael remained silent. The tension was palpable. Every officer in the vicinity seemed to subtly lean in. This was it, a pivotal moment. But before Michael could utter a word, Davies closed the distance. "This ain't no shelter," Davies sneered, his eyes raking over Michael's clothes. "You don't belong here, man. Take that mess somewhere else." Michael's jaw clenched, but he stood his ground. "You deaf or just slow?" Davies barked, louder this time. "I said, get out. We don't need folks like you around here." A quiet chuckle from behind Davies. Michael's pulse throbbed in his ears, yet his face remained a mask of calm. He opened his mouth to speak, to perhaps ask a simple question that might have diffused the whole ugly scene. But Davies, with a sudden sickening lurch, spat directly into Michael's face. Oh, the horror! Time seemed to stop. The world went silent as the warm, vile spit slid down his cheek. A stunned hush, then a burst of cruel laughter erupted from a corner. One officer slapped a table, wheezing with amusement. Another whispered something vile about putting riffraff in their place. Davies stood back, a triumphant, twisted grin splitting his face. But Michael? He didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. With the controlled precision of a man who had mastered his emotions under unimaginable pressure, he slowly, deliberately, pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped his cheek. His silence, truly was more unsettling than any furious outburst could have been. He simply looked at Davies, his voice a calm ripple in the stunned room. Is this how you treat everyone who walks through these doors? Davies scoffed. Only the ones who don't belong. The laughter briefly returned, but it felt hollow now, uncertain. Michael held Davies' gaze for another long moment, then turned, walking away with measured steps, without a single backward glance. Unbeknownst to Michael, in a far corner, a young journalist named Alex Chen, there to interview Captain Miller, had silently recorded every agonizing second on his phone. He now held footage he never intended to capture, footage that could shatter career. His eyes remained fixed on Michael's retreating back. Michael, however, felt only the weight of truth, not their stares or smirks. Then the ancient intercom crackled to life. All personnel to the main briefing room. It was his cue. The performance was about to begin, but they had already shown him everything he needed to know. The briefing room buzzed with the usual morning chaos. Coffee, jokes, weekend story. But Michael, now in a sharp navy suit, polished shoes, and a crisp white shirt, entered through a side door, a stark contrast to his earlier disguise. He held a folder emblazoned with the Hillside Police Department seal. He watched them for a moment, those familiar faces who had laughed at his humiliation, utterly oblivious that the man they scorned was about to become their chief. Captain David Miller, a grizzled veteran, called for order. All right, folks, settle in. We have an important introduction. Brian Davies, still smug, arms crossed, clearly expected some faceless bureaucrat to dismiss. Oh, how wrong he was. Miller cleared his throat. As you know, Chief Dalton retired. Today we finally introduce our new chief, a man with an impressive background and a clear vision. Michael stepped forward. A hush fell, thick and immediate. Each deliberate step echoed. Officers blinked, disbelieving. A slow wave of recognition washed over the room. Davies's face drained of all color. His arms fell. A nervous cough broke the silence, but it only deepened the tension. Michael placed his folder on the lectern, standing tall, letting his presence settle. Then he spoke. Good morning. My name is Michael Anderson. As of today, I am your new chief of police. The room was utterly still, the silence suffocating, like the air before a storm. Davies's face flushed a furious red, his bravado crumbling into a strained grimace. Eyes darted between him and Michael. Disbelief, shame, shock. Michael's gaze swept the room, pausing on Davies for a beat that felt like an eternity. This morning, he continued, his voice calm, unwavering, I came in plain clothes, not to deceive, but to truly see this department through an unfiltered lens. A murmur started, but Michael's raised hand silenced it instantly. In this brief time, he declared, I have witnessed behavior that is not just unprofessional, but flat out unacceptable. Let me be crystal clear. The culture that has festered here, it ends today. The air crackled, officers straightened, some staring at their shoes. Davies shifted, his mouth opening, then snapping shut. Michael stepped from the podium, walking slowly, his voice steady, commanding. Respect is not an option. It is the very bedrock of our mission. Without it, we betray each other, and worse, we betray the people we swore to protect. What I witnessed this morning, it was disgraceful, utterly disgraceful, and I will never tolerate it as your chief. He locked eyes with a veteran. Some of you laughed this morning, believing you were putting a powerless man in his place. But let me remind you, every person who walks through these doors deserves dignity, badge or no badge. A profound silence followed. Even the hum of the AC seemed to vanish. Back at the podium, Michael let the weight of his words linger. Then his voice rose, firm, resolute. Change is hard, I know, but it is coming, and it starts now. He nodded to Captain Miller. Effective immediately, Officer Brian Davies is suspended, pending a full internal investigation. A collective gasp. A pen clattered to the floor. Davies's jaw clenched, his eyes darting wildly. This is not about punishment, Michael stated. It's about standards. If you cannot meet them, this is not the place for you. His gaze swept the room, one last time. But if you are ready to do better, to be better, we will move forward, together. Know this though, I will hold you accountable, every single step of the way. With that he stepped back, letting the silence thunder with unspoken truths. Afterward, the usual camaraderie was gone, replaced by an unnerving quiet. Officers filed out, heads bowed, avoiding eye contact. Davies stormed out, face burning with humiliation, muttering furiously. Michael watched them go, the weight of his words echoing like a dropped hammer. He knew the system wouldn't change with speeches alone. It would shift when arrogance gave way to silence, when discomfort forced genuine introspection. Back in his office, Captain Miller called, "Chief, you handled that better than most." Michael, reviewing a stack of personnel files, simply said, "Thanks, Captain, but the real work begins now. I need everything on Davies. Complaints, incident reports, anything buried, on my desk by tomorrow." Miller hesitated. "You shook a few of them today, Chief." "In a good way." Michael hung up, taking one deep breath. So much to do. The next morning, the precinct air was different. Whispers followed Michael, not of fear, but of profound recognition. The loud laughers now averted their gazes. Davies' name was a hushed warning. Michael walked deliberately, nodding, showing that respect wasn't just rank, it was daily, unwavering commitment. By the third day, a timid knock. Officer Maria Rodriguez, young, hesitant, stood at his door. "Chief," she began, "I saw what happened. I was there when Davies did that to you. I even laughed," she confessed, eyes downcast. "Not because it was right, but because I didn't know what else to do. It's been like this for so long. People like me, we just stay silent." Michael listened intently. "I understand. Fear makes silence feel safe. But silence changes nothing." Maria looked up, her voice gaining strength. "I don't want to be quiet anymore. If there's anything I can do, anything you need to transform this place, I want to be part of it." Michael studied her, a survivor ready to thrive. "There is something," he said. "I'm building a small team to retrain this department on professionalism, respect and accountability. I want you on it." Maria blinked, surprised, then nodded. "Yes, sir, I'd be honored." As she turned, Michael called, "Officer Rodriguez, change is hard, and it will meet resistance." She turned back, a spark in her eyes. "I'm not afraid of the hard parts," she declared. Not anymore. Michael knew then. Not everyone would step forward, but this was a start. The right start often came not from the loudest voice, but from the quiet one finally choosing to speak. 3 days later, in his conference room, a soft knock. Alex Chen, the young journalist, entered, clutching a manila envelope, a nervous tremor in his calm demeanor. Michael motioned him in. "I recorded everything," Alex stated, sliding the envelope across the table. "That morning, with Officer Davies. I didn't mean to. I just happened to be waiting for Captain Miller. I kept it off the record, but I thought you should have it." Michael didn't touch it. "And what do you plan to do with it?" Alex hesitated. "That's why I'm here. Part of me thinks the public needs to see it. It's raw, it's real, but I also saw how you handled it. In the room. Maybe that's more powerful than any footage." Michael leaned back, the chair groaning. "You're right, it is real, and yes, it would ignite outrage. Headlines. Perhaps faster reform. But that change wouldn't come from within. It would come from pressure. I want them to change because they see it in themselves, not because they fear a camera." Alex slowly nodded. "So you're saying, don't release it." Michael finally took the envelope, holding it, then sliding it back. "It's your footage, your call, but I believe the long game matters more. We need them to look inward, not over their shoulders." Alex picked it up. "Understood. I'll keep it safe." Michael gave a small nod. "Thank you for bringing it to me first. That speaks volumes about your integrity." As Alex left, Michael added, "You saw them laugh, but you also saw them freeze when truth walked in. That shift, that's the seed of something better. We water it carefully, or it dies." Alex paused, turning. "It's rare to meet someone who chooses the hard path, when the easy one gets attention faster. You have my respect, Chief." The door clicked shut. Michael sat, staring at the empty chair. He didn't need a viral video. He needed time, consistency, and accountability born of choice, not fear. Later that week, at a community safety forum, Michael noticed an older woman, hands clasped around a worn purse, waiting patiently, her gray hair in a bun, a soft cardigan, despite the Georgia heat. As the crowd thinned, she approached,
Chief Anderson, her voice soft, hesitant. Yes, ma'am. How can I help you? She studied him. I came to say something I wasn't sure I had the right to say. Michael's face remained open. Go ahead. She took a shaky breath. I'm Eleanor Davies, Brian's mother. The name hung heavy. Michael waited. I didn't come to defend him, she quickly added, her voice trembling. What he did, it doesn't reflect what I taught him, or who I hoped he'd become. Tears welled. I'm so sorry. Not just as his mother, but as a member of this community. I saw your face. I read the article. The shame, Chief. I can't describe it. Michael met her gaze. No anger, only quiet understanding. Thank you, he said. That means more than you know. She nodded, looking at her hands. I don't expect you to forgive him. I'm not even sure I do, but I needed to say it. Michael gently placed his hand over hers. You did the right thing by coming, and you're not alone. Change needs everyone, inside and out. She offered a small, grateful smile, then left. Michael stood, the warmth of her words a quiet comfort. Not every apology came from the one who caused the harm, but sometimes, it still mattered deeply. A year passed. Hillside's precinct felt utterly transformed, not in brick and mortar, but in its very soul. The underlying tension had eased, replaced by a quiet awareness. The culture hadn't flipped overnight. Michael knew better, but conversations shifted. Silences held less weight. Eyes that once darted away now met his gaze. Brian Davies's appeal was denied. The internal review unearthed a dozen prior complaints, excessive forced, discriminatory remarks, all swept under the rug with mere verbal warnings. Under Michael's unwavering leadership, that pattern ended. Davies was formally dismissed. No fanfare, just a letter, a final definitive closing of a toxic door. In its wake, Officer Maria Rodriguez, once silent, now led weekly workshops, promoted to head the new Culture and Conduct Unit. Her voice, steady and clear, taught new recruits and retrained staff on equity, trust and ethical policing. She had lived through the silence. That made her credible, powerful in a way no lecture ever could be. Michael walked the halls, not as a demanding boss, but as a steadfast presence. Some greeted him with ease, others kept their distance, but even the few resistors had quieted, their influence fading. One late August afternoon, at a community event, Michael stood near a youth safety booth, when a small boy tugged his sleeve. Are you really the police chief? The boy's eyes were huge, uncertain. Michael knelt. I am, buddy. He smiled. My dad says the police don't care about people like us. The boy whispered. Michael's face softened. I can't change the past, son, but I promise you, we are working to be better. And if you ever need help, or just someone to listen, you come find me. Deal. The boy nodded, a shy smile forming, as Michael gave him a sticker. Honor through service. The boy pressed it to his chest as if it were a medal. In that moment, it truly was. As dusk fell, Michael watched officers leave, their laughter echoing, not harsh, but genuine, warm, a camaraderie born of shared effort, not mockery. Michael, a man of few smiles, held a quiet pride in his eyes, or perhaps just relief. Setbacks would come, resistance would rise, but for the first time, he felt hope. Change was never easy, but it was possible, and that, he knew, made every fight worthwhile. Locking his office door, he paused. The walls were the same. His badge still carried its weight, but the air, it had fundamentally shifted. Subtle but real. Change, he realized, doesn't roar in with headlines. It begins in quiet decisions. Dignity over pride, integrity over comfort, truth over convenience. He didn't come to Hillside to be liked. He came to remind a broken system that leadership is not about power. It's about presence, accountability, and the courage to stand firm. And perhaps that's the lesson for all of us. How do you treat those you think no one is watching? Because someone always is. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think differently about leadership, justice, or what quiet change really looks like, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There are more true, powerful stories like this one, waiting to be told. Stories that don't just entertain, but help us see the world and each other a little more clearly.